Hello, Assalamu alaikum, greetings, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again this third week of Black History Month, Ndola with the Shakors. And today we are doing commentary, Black Excellent film on American Skin. We're going to be talking about American Skin. And so if you have not seen it, you may not want to stay on because all the spoilers, I'm sure, are going to be being spoiled. We're going to talk about it in a pretty detailed way. And so before I bring on the panel of super awesome, amazing people, I'm going to bring on my super awesome, amazing daughter, who's going to sing a song for us to get us started. Aziza, you there? I think you're on mute.
My bad.
There you go. All right, Z.
Oh, wait, start now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. I pray you catch a wave. It doesn't subside. This for the nappy heads in heaven. With a nappy head Christ by their side. I pray you catch a wave. It doesn't subside. This for the nappy heads in heaven. With a nappy head Christ by their side. May your streets be paved with gold. Oh, my whole hood make it home. May your streets be paved with gold. Oh, my whole hood make it home. 'Cause the world can be toxic, especially when your skin look like chocolate. At one point they sold us for profit, but we made it out of the gauntlet, we're chosen. On my mama, the south side so holding. My whole hood is golden, that's why I pray you catch a wave. It doesn't subside, this for the nappy heads in heaven. With a nappy head Christ by their side, I pray you catch a wave. Doesn't subside, it's for the nappy heads in heaven. With a nappy head Christ by their side. You're on mute, mommy.
I'm sorry. Yay! Very good, Aziza, very good. Thank you very much. We will, of course, be discussing why she chose that song when we get into the conversation about the movie. Before I bring our three awesome panelists in, I wanted to make mention of the sponsors that we got for our four broadcasts. And so instead of doing monetary sponsorships, we did in-kind sponsorships where the businesses sent us their products and we're putting together a Black basket each week and distributing them to the people that are involved. So my panelists that are backstage, each of you will be getting one of these lovely baskets next week. So we have, where's my list here? We have Jazz Skincare Company. We have Umi Gourmet Popcorn, Susu Lemonade Crush, The African Inspired Child. We have Covered by Miriam, Al Fajr Trading Company, Keeping It Simply Sunnah, I&A Editing, In UC Lifestyle, and Light Legacy Books. So it's 10 companies, 10 Black-owned businesses that have amazing things. And just because we want to go in and jump into our conversation, I'm not going to elaborate on them, but please definitely check them out. Every so often, their information will be coming up at the bottom of the screen for your reference. And so let's jump on in. So we have three people that are going to be joining me today. So I'm going to add you guys on in right now to this conversation. Looks like everybody is on. All right. So to introduce myself again, I am Ndola. I am the mom of the Shakur girls, the wife of the Shakur man. And I feel like that's enough about me. And all of these lovely people are connected to me. So I'm going to let their accomplishments make me look a little bit better as I introduce them. And of course, my thing is not coming up properly. Okay, wait. I was way more prepared than this, y'all. All right, so we're gonna start off with Nargis. So Nargis Fontaine sent a modest bio to introduce herself. So Nargis is my cousin and my sister-in-law. So I'm just gonna toss that on out there to start it off. So she said she is a family-oriented community advocate, a DC native, an educator, an advocate, a martial artist, a manifester, a Georgia State University graduate, African American Studies Department, and she said, who got all the opinions of things. So there's Nargis. So then we have my brother, Masood Abdul Haq, who is, okay, yeah, I want to make sure you were at the right place. And Masood, oh snap. My stuff is not coming up, you guys. It's not working. Okay, technical difficulty is happening.
Just tell them what you know about me. Just tell them where about it.
I'm professional with this thing, and now I'm spinning. Lord have mercy. Okay.
I didn't want you to read it anyway.
That's why it's not working, because you put the juju on my computer. That's why my stuff ain't pulling up. All right, so Masood is my husband's brother, and so he is my family. He has 3 beautiful children. One of them does share a birthday with one of my beautiful children. So he has a set of twins, and then he has a cousin twin happening. He has an amazing wife who is a physician, and she has her own awesome podcast and shows that she's doing. Dr. Noor Jahan, please check that out. Masood is an author. He is a writer. He is a Muslim. He's an advocate, an educator, a speaker. He just kind of does all the things. He's currently working on not 1, but 2 films that he is writing and producing. And he's just kind of a cool person to know. I'm a fan. We like Masood. So I'm sure that's not what was in your bio, but that's what I got. So now it's up. So yeah, you must didn't want me to read it, because now that I'm at Mr. Harry Scott Gordon, everything is working. So we're gonna go on over to Mr. Gordon. So Mr. Gordon has literally known me for like almost 30 years. I feel like I was 8 or 9 when I met you. And so he is also an educator, and he was my teacher when I was in, what grade are you in at 9? I was in 6th grade, 5th grade. I was kind of smart. I was young for my class. But okay, Mr. Gordon, Harry Scott Gordon. Harry is a licensed professional counselor, LPC, with a Master of Science degree in mental health counseling. He has served in the capacity of clinician, teacher, coach, and mentor to adults, adolescents, and children. Harry is the founder and CEO of 2 organizations, A Safe Space LLC and Camp Ndongo Kondo. Did I say that right? All right. A Safe Space LLC is designed to eradicate the stigma of mental health in our communities by providing a safe space to share emotions and feelings. Camp Ndongo Kondo Young Warriors is a youth summer camp for at-risk boys. Harry's counseling style is client-centered, focusing on building trust and rapport with each client. His therapeutic orientation is an eclectic style that utilizes client-centered, rational, emotive behavior therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness, and motivational interviewing. Harry has experience in working with many populations and mental health concerns, including emotional instability, anger management, drug and alcohol issues, stress, anxiety, depression, parenting issues, career concerns, racial trauma, and self-esteem issues. Harry and his client will work to formulate treatment goals that are tailored for your unique and specific needs. In his spare time, as if you have any, because you got quite a few children as well, in his spare time, he has penned 2 books, The Spring of My Life, Chronicles of a Woman Addict, and The Summer of My Life, Chronicles of a Woman Addict 2, the first 2 novels in the Chronicles of a Woman Addict series. The Chronicle series peers into relationship addiction, an unhealthy dependency that evolves from fear of abandonment and an impaired sense of identity. 1 out of 4 relationships is abusive. Relationship addiction is the #1 abuse of abuse. But the series follows the life of Bobby Glover, a 30-something-year-old African-American man who has slept with beautiful women from all over the world. But unfortunately, it was while he was married to his wife, Brandy. When Brandy finally has had enough, she asks for a divorce. But Bobby fights hard to keep his marriage, so hard that he would do the improbable, go see a psychiatrist. However, when the doctor suggests that he may be addicted to women, he coldly dismisses him. Bobby embarks on a journey to find the truth and goes back to his roots, the Bronx. In this 4-part saga, Bobby searches his life trying to find the answers and save not only his marriage, but his soul. Okay, looks like we're gonna need to do a review of that book later. I don't have the second one, I only have the first one. But before we get sidetracked, let's jump on into
I gotta send it to you.
Okay, yeah, I got the first one. I wasn't able to get that second one yet. But
Let me
I
clean
have people that are joining us, but let's go in and get started. So for anybody who saw the movie some time ago or hasn't seen it for a while, we were thinking that we would start off playing the trailer. And then after we play the trailer, we would kind of jump right in because it just speaks for itself in so many ways, the movie. So if we're ready to go in and get that going, we're gonna good.
Remember me? How you doing tonight?
Doing well, officer.
Can I see your driver's license, registration, and insurance, please?
Of course. My license is right here, my wallet. That's all right, son. Remember the night in July?
Hands up! Hey! Wait! Put the phone down! Put that phone down! Sorry, it's a phone! It's a cell phone. It's just a cell phone.
You knew he was unarmed.
Get to the car and put your hands in the air! Austin, please, he's just a kid!
Pointed your gun at him.
Okay, get out of the car, son. Easy.
You pulled the trigger.
Put that phone away! Put the phone away!
The grand jury determined that no probable cause exists to file any charges against Officer Randall.
This is my son. This is my little boy. You took that from me. The world took that from me. Today we make that right. Hear me when I say this, because I'm only going to say it once. Don't stop filming.
You should just give up now.
Why are we the only people in this country that are expected to do things without violence?
I didn't mean to kill your son!
What you did.
I did what I was trying to do!
I just want justice. That's all I want. This is your jury. The deciders of your fate. Today, you will be tried for the murder of my son. Scared? Are you afraid?
Okay. So I'll be getting a little feedback. You good? All right. So I decided. Okay, no. Okay. We good now? Okay. Are you? Can y'all still hear that? Okay. All right. We're good. All right. So what I was gonna say is I decided to wait until kind of the last minute to watch it. So I watched the movie today because I wanted to kind of be fresh. But that wasn't a good idea because up here I didn't realize the things that happened. And I asked you Yes, I'm feeling a little chill right now, like fresh. And one reason is because, as many of you know, maybe not watching, I kidnapped before at gunpoint, and that's not something that only happened in the movie. And so it caught me off guard quite a bit. But we're jumping into this anyway. So I'm gonna start off with you guys. Y'all initial responses, your initial responses to the movie. I'm gonna start with
With me?
you just have to go right there.
Just the entire review, like just go in what I'm thinking. Well, I have to preface like the situation like that I was in when I saw it. I actually I'm working with Nate Parker on a film right now, and I was able to see this film in 2019. It was the first showing in North America, and Nate had experienced great success over in Europe, but he was also being kind of lampooned here as he tends to be, by the American press, based on his previous press runs and things like that. The people didn't feel like he was sufficient in a few things. We're not here for that, but so we had a discussion about how the film was made, how much the film cost, and it made me look at it a little bit differently because he was coming from a standpoint of, number one, he wrote this in a matter of a couple of weeks. He was just upset with a lot of the things that were going on in the country that he was seeing, and he's got 5 children, 5 daughters, but he put himself in the mindset of some of these people who are dealing with police officers and their sons. So he wrote it really fast, kind of in an emotional state, and he did the whole film top to bottom between $500,000 and $1 million, depending on what figures you're looking at. So you look at I'm looking at it kind of going in skeptical, like $1 million film, like what's that going to look like on the big screen, right? Like what corners are they cutting? But then I'm like looking at how he's shooting it. He used so many different camera angles that made it make sense for it to be grainier kind of footage. He's using cell phone footage. He's using officer cam footage. He's using his kids' social media and their computers. And I thought that was brilliant. Like, that's a brilliant way. And then he brought the student filmmakers in to kind of show their learning film. So their film and their camera work is going to be a little shakier. It's going to be so he took a challenge and made it a central part of the film in a way that was authentic, and it helped pull me in because like I said, I came in kind of as a skeptic. When we get into the story, and it started to kind of you saw where it was going. If you study film, then you could see a lot of 12 Angry Men, kind of feel to it. There's a lot of 12 Angry Men, which is a classic film, but with like an urban kind of contemporary twist. And I thought he did a good job. He one of the knocks on Nate is that he tends to be a little preachy. Like he always puts these long monologues and where he's stumping for a long time. But he was able to disperse his viewpoint through a lot of different characters in a way that made sense. And I thought that the police officers, the performances on the police side were, there were some really, really powerful performances on that side that really brought the movie home and humanized some of the their thinking. The idea that that's just what we're taught. It looks unempathetic to the outsider looking in, but if you learn that, hey, we're taught to just go home after we shoot somebody, and we're like, that's the worst. But look at our side. This is what we're taught. Like, what you want me to do, man? I was just doing my job. And then when they got the part out where it was just like, yeah, I was profiling you, but what do you expect? Like, how are we supposed to do anything without pulling people over? And in school I studied business law. We had to study constitutional law and all that kind of stuff. And you see so many Supreme Court cases began with a traffic stop. So that rang true as well, because it's like that is their whole job. That was they're trying to find people that we want off the streets, and historically the way that they've been doing it is through traffic stops. So I thought he hit on a lot of really good points, and he did it with a shoestring budget in a way that probably nobody would even recognize. But I was looking at it from that standpoint, like a filmmaker standpoint, and how does he overcome certain obstacles? And I thought from that standpoint, he did a great job.
Yeah, I stumbled into a room in Clubhouse with him and the producers and the marketers and kind of the people that made the movie work, and just hearing him tell how he did it and why he did it. One part of how it was for people, most of the actors didn't get paid. They all kind of came in as like a heart project, and then they talked about how they marketed it, like how you market music, and just I don't know, it was really interesting hearing it from that side, because how often do we get to hear that side of people that bring it in and put it out there and get their actual words from your mouth in such an unassuming setting. But Nargis, I would like to go to you next, and then I'll say Mr. Scott Gordon for last, because I'm sure you're gonna bring some of that professional opinion into the into the conversation.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize. We on 85 right now. So not being a student of film, right? I really didn't want to watch the movie.
Right.
Just because it's like I just don't. I know how this is gonna end. But I applaud Nate Parker, just as I have with his Nat Turner movie, just as far as taking on such a complex thing and having to condense it down into 2 hours, or whatever amount of, time the film was, and having to get across as many points as he wanted to. Like, if we view this whole concept of just racism, right, as the umbrella within this country, that's a huge web, and each individual string in that web is heavy, right? There are different dynamics and nuances that go into each one. So the fact that he took something so deep and put it into a movie, made it legible, made it as impactful to where I hope other races can digest it and really kind of understand. I applaud him for that. Right. Do I feel like he was a little heavy-handed, as Masu was saying, like in some of the monologues, just in some of the dynamics with the police officers? Like, obviously, I'm looking at this with my own bias. So no, I don't, in my mind, the police represent white supremacy. It doesn't matter the color of the person who's executing it or who's putting that in motion. Whether you're Latino or a black police chief and all this other stuff, you're still representing a thing that is structurally not set up to equitably disperse justice on your communities, and on the people who come in contact with you, right? I think that, the camera angles and all that, it definitely aided to it. I loved how they kind of flashed back and forth conversations. They really humanized the dad. I love the fact that it was even from a dad perspective. I think it could have been even more powerful and almost more absurd, if it was the mom and the dad, no, F this, we doing this for all parents. Versus, but I think the father's voice, as far as in the media, is really lost. It's always the crying mom. It's always the crying single mom. And, the dad might be in the background somewhere, but he ain't really had no relationship with their child. And you know what I mean? So I think I applauded the fact that he tried to change that narrative up a little bit and show just how even more heartbroken, the fathers are going through this too. The uncles are going through this too. The godfathers, the male cousins, he was really trying to show that emotion and that helplessness that we supposed to turn one cheek and then walk it off. And it's no, at what point does it become too much? But even despite it becoming too much, he still doesn't do what's expected of us, right? And that's what I really appreciated. But they did exactly what we expected them to do to him. For me, anyway.
I actually didn't even see it coming. I don't know why.
Girl,
but I was
As soon as I saw the camera angle, I was like, oh, I already know. And my spirit was like, please let this be a thing where like the police might step up and speak on his behalf and stuff. You know, like just something outlandish that only, you know, in a world where we're all humans could, you know, the result be. But I was like, oh yeah, I already see where this is going. And that's the direct place that it went. But as a whole, like, again, to take on something as complicated as this and make it what he made it into, definitely kudos. I couldn't have done it, but I don't want to watch it again.
Yeah. Some of the comments that are coming up on screen was, you know, a lot of people were surprised they didn't see it come. They don't know why. I was actually legit shocked. Like I knew something was coming when the camera got put down, but that I don't know why I didn't see that coming. But
so I was watching it with my spouse, and he was literally like, when the officer was like, "Can I walk out with you, like as a brother?" And he was like, Larnie was just like, "Nah, he won't go in front because he know they finna shoot that man." And I was like, "Yup."
Yeah.
He tried to be a bodyguard, like, wait, hear him out, and it didn't work.
All right, Mr. Scott Gordon, let's get your initial perspective, and then we can kind of make it more conversational after everybody has said their initial kind of piece.
Well, thank you first and foremost for having me and the ability. I deal with emotions all day. In my practice, I one of the things is to, as Ndola had said, my mission is to eradicate the stigma of mental health in our community, the Black community. That's general, but specifically, I want to give a safe space to young brothers, old brothers, all Black men, because we are taught not to be emotional, right, by our society. We can't. The only acceptable emotion that we can display is rage,
anger. That's it. Yeah.
But after this film, I cried for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I cried, and I want everybody to understand why I cried. Because I was mad as hell. And I don't know why, because this was the same reaction that I had when I came out of the movie The Hate U Give. The same thing, the same, like, really, like, because I served my country. I was in the military. I did everything the right way, I feel. I got my degree. I got my master's degree. I'm working on my doctorate. I've done it the right way. But I could see my sons, Scotty and Malik. I could see them. And matter of fact, shortly after that film, I called my older son and said, yeah, man, yeah, I need you to be careful out there. And then my wife looked at me and she said, because I know if this happens to your sons, it's not going to end like that. It's not going to be the Hollywood ending that you see. I also started looking from the lens clinically and from the post-traumatic stress disorder that we in our community are bludgeoned with. It's an everyday occurrence. Being Black in America gives you PTSD. You know, anybody who has viewed the George Floyd video has some sense of post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah,
I watched it one time and that was it. That was enough for me.
1 minute, and I was like, oh, I know where this is going. I'm not about to watch this, and I turned it off.
It's trauma porn.
Yeah. But what really enraged me, and I love because I'm not in depth with the cinematic views and the camera angles and all of that. One of the things that enraged me even more than the film, I read the reviews, and I'm a film. I'm not trained like I don't have that trained eye. I just like movies, right? I like movies, and I use a lot of movie references in my therapy, because it's relatable, right? And it got so I know horrible movies. I've seen horrible movies. Like what's the my wife said it's not that bad. What's the joint with Acrimony. That was a horrible movie. It was a horrible movie. I don't care what anybody says. It was horrible. So when I looked at the reviews, sorry, Tyler Perry, but anyway, it was horrible. But when I looked at the reviews and they got 33 Rotten Tomatoes, I was like, what? 33 Rotten Tomatoes? Because Rotten Tomatoes usually are kind of, if it's quality, they really, look at it. The Birth of a Nation, I think got like 90 something Rotten Tomatoes. But I saw the systemic racism there. And when I was reading the reviews, it wasn't on the quality of the film. It was on Nate Parker. Because Nate Parker had been charged with rape when he was in school and all of these different dynamics. So it wasn't the film that they were critiquing. They were critiquing this black man. But it was also a reason why, well, if it's get there, we're not going to put any money behind it, no real money, because you've never seen the trailer on TV. You've never seen that. You have to see it on Facebook or Instagram or things like that, because the majority of people that I tell about the movie, like, we've never heard about it. Really? How can't you hear about it? But that is the reason. So to my core, and I didn't watch it today, Ndola, but I did watch it last night just to familiarize myself and to relive that pain, that sorrow, because I knew that he was going to die. I knew, and it was the position that he was placed in line. If he was between some of the people, he might have survived, because they wouldn't have shot. Because if they shot him, it would have the force of the projectile of the bullet probably would have gone through. So they wouldn't have taken that risk. But being that when he was at the end of the line, I knew it was a wrap. I knew it was a wrap. But I did think that he had his justice, because he knew he had given his life for his son, and he wanted that story told. He wanted to talk, as the lens that you eloquently talked about, it was taken from the lens of a father who himself sacrificed everything for his country. And even the name Lincoln Jefferson, really? So we're not even going to go into that aspect of it. Like, okay, all right, Lincoln Jefferson.
What? Lincoln
Jefferson. I was like, really? But the fact that we're tired.
Exhausted.
If 2020 hasn't showed us anything about unity, if it's not, and I didn't know the time frame. I didn't know it was a 20. I didn't know it was older. Like, it's older actually than A Hate U Give, around the same time period that movie came out. And it was just devastating to me that we're still having this discussion. We are still having this issues. And like Malcolm said, it's time out for that, because it's going to come back. My prayer this summer did come that we actually formed as a community and went to the polls, because it's at a time now that is either the ballot or the bullet. So hopefully through our election, hopefully, I'm being optimistic, because I want it to be the ballot. I hope it's not the bullet, but I'm prepared.
Yeah, it's as I did know from a couple years ago, and I was struck by the imagery, and it's like it could have been taken from last year. It could have been taken from, you know what I mean? Like, if I didn't know that it was from back then, I would have thought, oh, he just pulled some clips from the George Floyd thing, or from the whoever. I mean, just choose a name from anybody that was in the last 2 years. And then I caught one of the shots. He has it in the trailer. He's doing his Malcolm pose. He got the gun in the window and he's kind of standing by it. And so I was like, it's really interesting. I was looking at it from the point of view of, we're going to have this conversation. And so I was kind of looking for things like, I need to pay extra attention. And so all of this stuff was really standing out. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I keep saying
these stories are that you could put them for any era. Like you can look at stuff from the 60s and the 50s, 40s even, right, and apply it word for word directly into where we are right now. So 2019, 2021, that's yesterday and today.
Right.
You know, it's like we're dealing with the same issues, and 2020 put a more intense microscope on some of these issues, just because a lot more people were sitting at home, forced to watch them, you know, in real time. In particular, in the George Floyd situation, like 8 whole minutes, and the man is crying for his dead mother. I mean, those were jarring images and sounds. This film, I think, part of the reason why it was probably picked up finally after, you know, Nate was shunned for so long. And to Mr. Gordon's point, you know, he was fine when he was doing Red Tails and when he was doing, you know, The Great Debaters, and when he was doing anything other than Birth of a Nation, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of thumbed his nose at the name of that film, which was initially, you know, Ku Klux Klan propaganda film.
Right.
And so he thumbed his nose at the establishment and those powers that be, and they got him, you know, on the old stuff. It wasn't like they cared about that stuff for all of those other films, you know, when he was doing whatever that was with Juju and Bata Raw.
Beyond the Light.
Yeah, Beyond the Lights. And you know, he was fine. Like, he was an up and coming star. People loved him. He was a period film staple. You know, he was a young guy who you know, he was kind of almost on the level with Chadwick Boseman. You know, those were the two guys who were doing, you know, period films well, and they had an old school kind of feel to them. So he was getting roles. It was only when Birth of a Nation came out that they started to do the gotcha stuff in the press, and then they weren't impressed by the way he responded to those questions. So, and then after that, like you said, it's never about the work anymore. It's about Nate Parker, and it's about saying that, hey, this guy tried us, and you don't survive. They canceled him, you know what I mean? So that's what we're looking at. So it definitely wasn't a bad film at all. You know, when you look at those reviews, and they're just hit pieces. They're just attack ads on him, and people saying that, why is this guy still around, and all that kind of thing.
What was that, Nargis?
I didn't mean to talk over you, Masood. I was just saying, like, in reference directly to the Rotten Tomatoes, like, the Rotten Tomatoes review is like 30, but like the audience review is like 90%.
Right.
So, you know, that just, you know, and that's the courtroom of opinion that you want to win in. Like, it doesn't really matter, especially now with the internet and stuff like that. It's Corona. We can't even go to movie theaters anyway. So, you know, he's earning, well, I feel like he can earn his traction back in the state that we're in now, because the dependency on these, like, you know, studios and all this other stuff to like back you, and like you don't really need that as much, like, as long as you have like the public behind you.
I mean, yes and no, because I mean, what's now being considered success, this is being considered a success for him because they've made $5 million, right? You know what I mean? Like, success before success, you know, for instance, Birth of a Nation sold at the film festival for a record $19 million. Like, he sold that film at the film festival for $19 million. And then, you know, that they couldn't recoup that money because of all of the negative press. But so that's the level that you're playing on when you're dealing with, you know, kind of grassroots, and I just want people to rock with me, and versus a studio pumping out, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of promo advertising, and this one blockbuster, they're advertising for this next blockbuster at the same time. The machine works, you know what I mean? It works, and it's hard to be on the outside looking in. But what this might do is get him another look, another chance, whether it's as a writer, whether it's as an actor or a director, or all three. But that's kind of what our project is taking on.
Well, I think one of the greatest things that we show is that we show the power of the Black dollar, our community dollar, and that's most important, because, again, the audience reviews are good, but the Rotten Tomatoes, as the brother was saying, is what gives the promotion dollars. That's what gives the backing to that. Those type of critical air. So that's why I didn't have that. But we have to understand. I already have a version. I'm going to buy another version of it, because it is important that we support, we get behind. We have to understand that we are $1 trillion, you know, entity in America. So we can push his movie, but we have to get it about word of mouth. We have to be supportive of everything like you do. One of the greatest things that I love about what Indola and her husband and her daughters are doing is that we are forming a unity about, you know, all the principles of Kwanzaa are coming now, you know, that cooperative economics, all of those things are important because we have to stop asking for a seat at the table. We have to create our own tables. And this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. So in movies like that, who Hollywood wants to shun, let's go out like we did. And I don't have anything, I guess I'm getting ready to hit Tyler Perry again. But we went out and supported the buffoonery of Tyler Perry. We made him a billionaire, right? But why can't we support visions that show us who we are and the world who we are? Because that was the Father's vision. I want to show the world. I want to show the world what we go through on a daily basis. One of the things that I work with, why so many African American brothers come to me, is because I know their struggle. I tell them, I'm not saying that an African American woman or a white woman or a white man can't counsel you. But I think most of those sessions, especially for the white women and the white men, you have to explain your plight. Like, excuse me, tell me how it feels to be, you know, why are y'all so nervous when the cops get behind you? Please explain that. What? Nah, I don't have to explain it to you. They don't have to explain it to me because I live it. I live it every day that I leave my house.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like, at what, like, I don't know. I probably should have watched it yesterday. I'm still just thinking about all of the stuff of it, and one thing that I did think he did well, as I think my sister you were saying, was showing all the different perspectives. Like, I think they showed the other side of it well. Like, how does this happen? And it wasn't just like totally biased, but even in showing that perspective, it's not better. Like,
right.
Like showing us the problem from your side of from where you're standing, how the problem looks from over there, but the problem is still here. And so,
I think so. I'm sorry.
No,
sometimes that kind of shows like in a debate, right? Like, if there's a person who's never willing to concede any points whatsoever, that person loses credibility, right?
True.
So it's like, we know that we have the winning argument. Like, stop killing us. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, stop killing us. Like, we're people. You know, we matter. You know, we know that's the winning point. So saying like, you know what, I get it. You guys have a tough job. It's not that much of an acquisition. You know what I mean? Acquiesce. You know what I mean? I don't know the word acquiesce. It's not, you're not acquiescing too much, you know, to give them that point. Like, all right, so I'm going to give you this little crumb, but can you acknowledge that I shouldn't be killed in the street like a dog? You know,
right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Can we acknowledge
and it shows to the humanity of it. Like, you know, the heaviest line in the whole film, and his kids like cover your ears, but the heaviest line in the whole film when he just like said to himself, like, I ain't shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, they killed my son and told me that
I can't do nothing about it.
I can't do nothing about it.
Right.
And that speaks to what Mr. Gordon was saying about how men really feel, because nobody, Trayvon Martin's dad, nobody is gonna run up in no police station and do anything about it. Like, most people just sit there in that moment, and that's the most realistic thing that happens in the aftermath of one of these types of situations. So he depicted that, and he just kind of captured it in that one little line. And most people just sit in that. Some people don't sit in that, and some people never recover from it, you know?
Right.
I think he did a really good job. If I'm trying to tie in like just some different literature that like I've read, just as far as like just Black anxiety and like just the state of existence, right? So when you operate and you move and you do all the right things and you still know that getting pulled over while Black is a near-death experience, regardless of the race or gender of the officer who pulls you over. But then when you have a family, when you have a partner, you have children, that anxiety is now extended to your children, in the recognition that not only am I vulnerable and I have to like basically lose my humanity in a way to make it out of that near-death experience, even though a piece of me metaphorically dies, because I can't challenge when you say, oh, where are you coming from? Why did you pull, you know what I mean? Any type of question about the infringement of your rights can escalate the whole situation, even though it's in your rights. So even though you're physically not dying, there is a metaphorical death to your ego that is occurring that you now have to part with. And then trying to translate that sense of powerlessness to your children and to your families for their protection. But then at the same time, you want to live a life that like celebrates successes and, you know, celebrate the happy moments of, you know, going out and bowling or opening up Christmas gifts or whatever the case may be. That is a hell of a dichotomy, if I'm using that word appropriately, or just a fine line that you have to walk. Like that is a legit tap dance that has a different routine every single day that you have to wake up to. And then, like I said, then it's your responsibility to now translate that to your children, but you don't want to translate that anxiety to them. Right. And you kind of saw him having that conversation, like when his son kept bucking back, he was like, "Bro, look, these ain't our rules."
That was the most powerful scene in the movie to me.
And he made his friend, he's like, "No, you need to hear this too." Like,
because the thing about it, as a father, Dr. Joy DeGruy wrote a book about post-traumatic slave syndrome. And what we have to understand is that scene right there was the epitome of post-traumatic slave syndrome. We have to go in there and tell our children, like I literally called my sons and my daughters and say, listen, if the police put you over, I don't care if they tell you to put your face in the mud. Put your face in the mud. Get home. My whole message is to get home. We have money. We can afford lawyers and things like that. I will fight this to the end, but I can't fight it with you in a coffin, because I'm going to be in a coffin or a jail cell for the rest of my life. And I know this. I know this about me. So we have to understand that we have to emasculate ourselves as fathers. Like that scene was so powerful. It's like, I don't care what you see in history. I don't care what these books represent or these laws. These laws did not have us in mind, and they still today don't have us in mind.
This wasn't written for you.
So when you look at what happened on January 6th, and you're like, look at that, man. And the world can see that. Let that been a Black Lives Matters. Let that been any other protest, and it would have been a massacre.
Yeah.
But now you with the horn, the guy with the horns can get organic food and be placed. But how many Muslim brothers and sisters who need halal, they can't get those type of males in jail? Right. So it goes to the systematic racism that's embedded in this country.
Yeah, the part you were talking about, starting off with the issues for yourself and then your children. I only have girls, right? We have all daughters, and so a lot of times people talk about the conversation with your son, but of course it applies to our girls as well. And one of the things that I've grappled with is, how do you prepare them properly and protect their innocence? Because you can't do both here. I can't let you still be my innocent, unassuming 8, 9, 10-year-old child or student and know that when you walk outside, none of that matters. It doesn't matter that you're sweet and you're kind and you're smart and you're talented. You're Black. That's what matters. And I've had biracial students and mixed race students who have tried to tell me, like, oh, no, just like the boy in the movie, no, the law is this. And I'm like, dude, you are Black. You are a Black man. You're my size. You're man size. None of that matters. And so it wasn't until I saw it with one of my students that I realized that we are doing our children a disservice when we don't talk to them appropriately, when we try to quote unquote protect them, it's not a protection. Then you end up with a child that has this false sense of reality. And Masood, you got a couple sons over there too. I was wondering, like, the father lens for you, like, what did you think about it in terms of your sons or your nephews or whatever? And I know your boys are younger as well, but I mean, it's an issue at every age. Like, the kid's name escapes me, but he's in the park playing with the water gun and got shot. Like,
Mayor Rice.
Yeah,
Mayor Rice.
No, I mean, I have the philosophy that if they're old enough to form a question, then they're old enough to get a well thought out and real response, right? And they've been in the car with me, and I've gotten pulled over, and they've observed how I behave, and I'll give them, a little bit of feedback when they ask me questions. One time I was going 7 miles over the speed limit heading toward their school to pick them up. I get pulled over by a cop. And I was upset because I'm like, you guys stalking the outside of a school when people are trying to get their kids to school. And I said, can my kids just get out so they're not late? And the guy's like, stop threatening me. Get out the car. He puts me in handcuffs. I'm outside of the elementary school. All these kids passing by with their parents. I'm in handcuffs because I said, can I let my kids out? So that led to one of those types of discussions. And you just got to keep it 100% with them. And if they understand it, then so be it. But I think there's an element of them knowing that you can't act the same way around police officers. And, one of the points that was being made earlier made me think about, that old practice, buck breaking, right? Like, police, they use those situations to humiliate. When Nargis was saying that, they use those situations to humiliate you. And then you have to try to pick it up and still feel and look and act tough and strong around and make your family feel protected. But they're like, but if that other guy comes over here, you can't protect me from him. And it weakens the family structure, from the inside out with those things. There was another film, Crash, that came out a long time ago, like 2004, 2005. I think Terrence Howard's character, and they went through a similar situation, and they didn't make it through it. It was like, he molested the wife right there in front of them, and was like, basically, what you gonna do about it? And in those situations, it's like, do I throw my life away, or do I, like Nargis said, like, kind of sacrifice some of my dignity, like, mortgage a little bit of my pride in exchange for continuing to live. And that's an unfortunate reality that we face. And I try to make sure I convey that to my sons in any kind of way. My traffic stop ritual is having my license outside of the window before they even get there. License, everything is right there. When they talk to me, I'm not saying anything. I mean, like, you have everything you need. Right. Go do what you need to do. And, like, because they're trained to try to extract,
information.
And like, they want you to implicate yourself.
They want you to incriminate
you. So I don't say anything. I just hold it out. I don't acknowledge it. Do you know why I pulled you over?
But
that's it.
You gotta even go back to Willie Lynch.
All right.
This is the Willie Lynch syndrome. To be able to dehumanize men, to separate them from their families. This is a calculated.
Right.
This is not something that is happenstance. This is calculated. We want to incarcerate, dehumanize the African American male, take him out of the home. That's why women who receive public assistance, there's stipulations. Well, your husband can't live there. Really? What are they doing? They're separating our families, and they're dehumanizing us into a less than. So you can't be able to look your sons and daughters in the face and say that, just like you said, that man has more power than you, daddy. You have to be scared of that man. It's right. Just
so that's why I even developed that in the first place, where I don't speak. I don't, like, they're trying to get answers out of me, and I'm like, you got what you need. This is the only thing I have to do for you. You know what I mean? So it doesn't, I don't have to, yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Let me reach slowly over you, sir, and all that. I don't do that. I don't do your honor in court. I don't do none of that. You know what I mean? I say, yes, no, and that's it. But as few words as possible. I teach them that, keep your hands in clear view, have your stuff ready to go, and then that's it. If they ask me to step out, I'll step out. I don't resist in that way, but they haven't seen me be afraid of those people or act in a way that's going to get me in more trouble. I have my license, I have my registration, I have my insurance. What do you need me for? Like, I know my rights. That's basically it. But we definitely have had those conversations, and they're pretty frank. 6, 7 years old, it didn't matter. We hit it right where it needs to be heard.
Am I a bad person? Because I wanted the wife and son to stay on the phone. Like, I'm like, nah, I want them to see this. Like, because I knew he wasn't gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I want them to feel that. I want that anxiety. I want her to fear, like, I want her to see the not happenings. You know what I mean? Just because he's like, I've been feeling this for the past year. It's like, nah, bro, you've been feeling that your whole life, high key. And it's like, that's all we want is that empathy. That's literally all we want. So if you understood the emotion that you were inflicting upon us, it might make y'all pause. Like this, and the theory is still embedded in like hope. It's not even like anything that we have concrete that's like, well, maybe if y'all humanize us, then everything will be better. Like it's still in the hope method, right? But if you at least could come close to understanding the very real fear of death for not just yourself, but all of your loved ones, then like maybe you wouldn't be as oppressive.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't want the kid to go through that, because I think we, as humanity, like we can't just stoop to their level. Like if we're saying they're damn near devils, then we don't want to go
out to that level would be to kill them.
Nah, I mean, like that would traumatize the kid.
I want him to bust him in his head. That was mine. I'm gonna keep it 100.
Somebody gotta be sacrificed.
Y'all gotta.
Like if it was gonna happen, I was cool with it. But I'm like,
one of my good friends told me the other day, until we start, and it's my wife. My wife is a revolutionary. Like, we got guns in here. You come and see us, it's gonna be a problem. But she states all the time, until we make it uncomfortable and understand that they have, that they're going to have some consequences to their action. Because you as an educator, me as an educator, if there's no consequences to your actions, and they're going to have to be a timeout, because we're going to have a period of time where, what are you willing to die for? What are you willing to die for? And I know specifically for my wife and my kids, my wife will tell you, she said, I know you serious, because that film wouldn't have went that way if it was me. I'm sorry. That might be, but it wouldn't have went that. That's why I pray, hopefully we can do this the peaceful way. But just like the brother said, why are we the only people on this earth that has to be non-violent? White America is the most violent, and their children on it, so I can't say what I want. They're the most violent history in mankind, period. And why do we think we got to turn the other? I don't have enough cheeks.
Mm-hmm. You got to walk it off.
Nah, because walk it off. Not to cross films, but Judas and the Black Messiah.
See, I haven't seen that one yet.
I don't have it in me yet.
Yeah, I wasn't ready.
I
know the story of that.
Years old. Just listen to the power of the black man in America. At 21 years old, Fred Hampton was public enemy number 1 at 21 years old. Understand our power.
Yeah, I definitely know about, I know the story, which is why I was like, I can only do one at a time. So I got my pandemic anxiety and my life anxiety, and now I got my American and skin anxiety. I couldn't add Judas and the Black Messiah. I said, I gotta wait, let this one simmer down a little bit. But a lot of this conversation was reminding me of, I can't even remember when I saw it, but the comedian Michael Shea. And he was saying he finds it so ironic that believing that Black Lives Matter is even a stance. Like, how is it? Like, just matter. Like, just matter.
Matter. Can we just matter? Exactly.
More important. Just like, you can't
That's
go
our opening negotiation.
Yeah, like, can we just matter? Like, not exist, but can we matter? Just
matter. Like, why a stance that somebody can have? Because obviously the other side would be that it doesn't matter. So, like, how is this even a thing that we have to justify and substantiate and like and explain? And I don't know. This movie is so daggone crazy, man. I thought it was interesting how the cop ended up saying, for one, the cop that had the most to say wasn't even white, which I thought was a good choice. And clearly he had some connections to something, because when my boy started speaking Spanish to him, he understood every word he said. And I was waiting to see how that was going to go when the inmate started speaking Spanish. Like, was he going to not speak it or what? But it's like, no, this guy speaks Spanish. He's connected to his community some kind of way. But then it goes with of course, the Holocaust.
It triggered him big time, though. Like, hearing it in Spanish, it turned him to another animal after that point. Yeah. It's like it hit home when he heard that in Spanish.
My man,
and I love that he didn't put subtitles. Like, I love that. I love that. I didn't know what he was saying, but I knew he was saying it. He was mad calm.
He was disgusted by that man.
Like, he read him.
Yeah, he told him off in that clubhouse room. They talked about that part, and he was like, they debated it heavily and was like, there are no subtitles in real life, and they were already doing that documentary kind of angle and the film crew and all that, and it just felt a lot more true and a lot more raw to not translate into the translation. Yeah, the translation came from his responses. So instead of telling us what my man was saying in Spanish, you know what he's saying based off of their body language and how the officer is responding to him. Which of course
man was gonna explode.
No, it was a brilliant move. But he was just like, the Holocaust, yeah. And yeah, Nazis, but y'all, like, what do y'all have to worry about? And just yesterday, I was on Facebook and someone posted in a group that I'm in. It was a white woman who I don't know. She posted a picture of Africa that has it's color coded by the European countries that kind of, when they sat down and chopped it up and distributed it amongst themselves. And she was like, can anybody verify this? Like, is this accurate? And I'm like, really? Like, really? Like, this is news to somebody in 2021? And I know I shouldn't be surprised that it's news to somebody, but there were thousands of comments and it was news to a lot of people, some of which were saying it never happened. That's not true. That's not real. Somebody made that up. Here y'all go calling a race car. And it's like, how do you, what's even a starting point to let this movie be less relevant and less triggering and less anything for us? Because there are people who still legit don't know that all but one country in Africa was colonized up until like yesterday. Like, these countries is younger than my children, some of them. You know what I'm saying? In terms of being independent. People legit don't know why Haiti is so impoverished and why Dominican Republic isn't. Because the French was killers and the Spanish was rapists. Like, that's the difference there. How do people, like, how does this information really get somewhere so that
you gotta care?
American skin is not going to be relevant to our children's children, because it's relevant for our children for sure. Like, my girls are 13, 10, and 7. The 13-year-old has had these conversations. The 10 is so sensitive. It's difficult to talk to her without her carrying stuff. And we made the mistake of kind of turning her into a little bit of a revolutionary. And so Harriet Tubman is her spirit ancestor. And so she did all of the
Ain't
stuff.
no mistake.
Yo, man, it feels like, oh, what did I do to this kid? But it's just in her. And last year, we actually found out that William Steele is one of their ancestors. And that was it for her. Like, she's like, oh, mama, this is what we got to do. My great-great-great-grandfather was with Harriet Tubman. Like, it's over. And so she's just like, done. But like, I legit don't want her to have to do it. But of course, it's not what I want. So how do we like make this less relevant? Like, and I know it's not up to us, but it kind of is though.
Well, I think that we have to, just like the brother talked about, is that if a child is old enough to formulate a question, then they're old enough to understand the truth. We have to stop. We have to stop giving Santa Claus credit, right? I mean, let's look at it for real. We have to stop that. We have to really understand that this is what it is. This is a scary world, children. And the boogeyman is not what they put on horror shows. No, the boogeyman, you know who the boogeyman is. It's the white supremacist doctrine that is embedded in our country. One of you talk about the reaction. So in my practice, I have a private practice, and then I contract with a online, and I have some white clients there. And it was hard because the day I told my wife, I don't want to help another white person anymore. I want them all off my caseload. I don't want to help them anymore. Of course, I had to step back because I know white allies. But we have to stop. We have to stop. Oh, there's our savior, and you have this savior complex. So every movie got to have the white savior. Matthew McConaughey has to come in and help all the black people because we can't do that. Stop it. Stop it. You can advocate for us, but you cannot lead our charge.
Yes.
This is our charge. So to answer the question from the womb, we have to be honest with our children, brutally honest with our children, because, as you said, Tamir Rice, 10 years old, they were brutally honest with him, and he might not have had the talk by then, because we have to have the talk. We have to have the talk. The power of the Black Panther Party, because it's demonized in society. These people were feeding communities, getting job placement. But do we hear that? No, we hear that UEP and Stokely and all these were anarchists and things like that. People of power make history, but it's his story. We have to, through film, with the brother, I know the brother's film, I would support anything if I can donate or anything or bring any traction to your work. I'm a phone call away, but we have to start supporting our own finance. I've seen a lot of things on the Facebook comments. It's our financial dollars. We are $1 trillion. You don't have to have every pair of J's. You don't. You just don't have to have every pair of J's. Let's buy some stock. Let's buy some, things. Let's teach financial and fiscal responsibility. I love what their own, just like the Shakors. When I saw my prize student in her daughters and they had a business, I'm buying whatever. Like, baby, I don't care. I don't know if I can. I don't know, but we got to support each other to a flaw. Be purposeful about that.
Yeah.
One of the can't follow that. I mean, he hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, he hit on it earlier too, talking about the ballot and the bullet. You know what I mean? Like, you wanna exhaust all remedies before you got to start blasting on people, right? That's the main thing. And if you're going to start blasting on people, you need to have some other people behind you that's doing that as well. So if we're not ready, we ain't got no well-trained militias, we don't have a stockade of arms, then we need to be trying to figure out the intellectual routes that we can go. And that includes politics, that includes finances, that includes raising awareness for the things that we care about, you know what I mean? Right. And doing things like that, you know what I mean? Making sure that we use our platforms, we use the social media that we have, we use all of our resources to shed light on our talents, on our products, on our services, on our business, on whatever intellectual property that we can claim as ours, and make sure that that humanizes you, first of all, and second of all, it's going to give you some capital. It's going to give you a voice. It's going to give you some notoriety. It's going to make you somebody that, you know, you can't just be trampled over. You know, there are now ways and mechanisms that you can fight, you know, back against the system before it comes to blows, or before it comes to shooting, or whatever the case may be. So participate in local elections specifically. I mean, a lot of times the national stuff is like a clown show, and I don't blame people for not wanting to get involved on the donkey or the elephant and all that nonsense. But your county commissioner matters, your DA matters, your sheriff matters, like 100%. Yes. So understanding that it's not every 4 years, that we need to know what's going on. We need to know what the judges that we put in are doing. We need to understand, you know, who is in charge of what, who can let people off, who can indict people, who can assign people to community service. All that kind of stuff is how you can be a revolutionary in 2021 before it comes to chopping stuff down. You know what I mean? So that would be my main advice.
Yeah, and that's what my son knows. He goes by Scotty Smart. I'm like, yo, that's not your last name. But anyway, but he's the change creator. But, you know, but that's what he's been telling me. Yeah, exactly. But that's what he has preached for years, is that local elections matter more than now. And we've debated, I think we have to, but it's a more of a consciousness now. Look what we did. Look, and that's what I love the two elections, because in the presidential election, you saw Black America walk Donald Trump down. Oh, Milwaukee. Yes, that's us.
Yeah.
But the senatorial, see, I live in DeKalb County. So we were behind and we're like, oh, we ain't going to have nothing going to pass. And you just saw DeKalb County walk them down. And you know, because it's a big thing. Me and my daughters go to the poll. My wife and her daughter go to a poll. It is a ritual. So to see that our votes counted to swing whatever. So now let's make them accountable. Let's make them do their job. Are you going to, brother? I don't care what you say, because we have to have that financial, and now, like you said, brother, that political acumen to be able to understand. Now, we sacrificed, we died for this. It was almost comical when people said, we built Washington D.C. No, the hell you didn't. We built Washington. Like, really, like realistic.
Really.
Black men built the Capitol.
Yeah. Design that thing and built it.
Kind of wait for her.
No, I told him I'm wrapping up.
Yeah.
Oh, I was about to say, wait a minute.
Oh.
Well, I was just thinking about the whole storming of the Capitol thing, and how a lot of the people that did it, I think they were a bit surprised by the backlash they received legally. And I remember seeing how they were caught. Most of them were caught because they was turned in by their children or their nieces and nephews, and like their loved ones was like, yeah, we're not doing this no more either. And so I think that that's another big thing that has to happen is white people got to call out white people. And that has to be a part of us doing our part. And then I think that's a part of their part that they have to do. Because a lot of those people probably would not have been pursued quite as heavily as they were. Because how did they even get as far as they got? Like, that shouldn't have even happened in the first place. They were scaling walls and all that kind of stuff. How did that even happen?
They had an invitation from the president.
Yeah, there's that.
The guards stood down.
There's all that.
Proud Boys, stand down.
I was this is my final thought, and then I was
about to say, you want to give your final thing.
Yeah, so that, see the movie, support that man, support what he's trying to do. I had the privilege of sitting in on a documentary filming of Blacks in the South who grew up during integration, and one of the, basically the baby boomers, and one of the gentlemen, he was a vet. He basically said, all due respect to Dr. King, they really didn't do us a favor when they fought for integration,
because when we integrated, it diluted the Black pride.
And he saw that coming too.
Yeah, but he saw it coming too late, right? And the reason being is because, you know, when you weren't allowed to do a thing, we weren't allowed to bank at the white banks, we weren't allowed to eat at the white restaurants, there was no other choice. But because white was qualified as better, when the opportunity presented itself, even if you were taxed more, even if you were treated like shit, even if the quality wasn't better, you still had this sense of pride because your account is at this white bank, right? And I feel that our culture is now shifting. We are seeing the pride in doing for ourselves. Yeah. But, you know, Black people have always been the biggest consumers, like, since we've been able to spend money. So if we do it internally, like we take the words of our ancestors, we take the, you know what I'm saying, we take the guidance of our ancestors, and we really just like recognize our own value, and not through a white lens, not through a white scope, but like through us as we redefine ourselves, right, and what it means to be, what freedom looks like for us, and how we want to live uninterrupted. Yes. Like globally, not just in this land, like, then we're gonna make progress. And we recognize that, again, we're not gonna see we may not live to see the change that we want, but we gotta carry that baton to that point. And that is what our ancestors was trying to do. So, you know, police brutality, like I said, is just one of those strings on that web that I referred to. It's a huge thing. Everybody need to recognize their role. Buy Black, shop Black, support everybody, smile. Smile, be royal, pray, and all that good stuff.
One last thing, Indulgent.
No, you don't have to get off. She's getting off, so we wanted to let her give her final thoughts because she has to go. So thank you so much, Nargis, for joining us, and you enjoy your.
Hey, are you muting me? This is awesome. Do it again. Shout out to the Shakors. I'm glad I got invited. I'm gonna look for my gift box.
I don't know if your popcorn's gonna be in there, but everything else will be accounted for.
That's fine. I live with the popcorn, man.
Right.
All right, fine.
All right, yeah, we were just letting her get in because she had to go. But yeah, Masood, you can take a moment to finish what you wanted to say.
Well, I was just gonna say, so the one of the films that I'm involved in has to do with the Black Wall Street scenario. Like, there's a lot of stuff coming out about Black Wall Street right now, but most of it's like documentary style or kind of fantastical a little bit. This is kind of getting into, you know, the how, like what it felt like, what it looked like, you know, really going into the opulence and the decadence that they were living in, and the nature of the power that they held because of the financial empire that they built, you know, as a collective. And so many people misconstrue that story. They think that it ends with the bombing and with the massacre. Right. It doesn't end there. Like, that wasn't even the peak of Black Wall Street. They rebuilt like that. They rebuilt almost immediately. They started rebuilding within the next months coming up. So they reached their peak. Like, that happened in 1929 or whatever it was, 21, coming up on the centennial. And in the early 40s was when Black Wall Street actually peaked. So 20 years later, Black Wall Street was stronger, much better, more resilient than it ever had been before. What actually killed Black Wall Street was not that massacre. It was not those bombs. It was integration. Yeah. It was as soon as those people knew they could go on the other side of town and shop with Mr. Charlie, then they weren't shopping with Mr. Ray no more, right? Yeah. Integration killed Black Wall Street. So the thing that we kind of look up to and say this is like the pinnacle of Black success and entrepreneurship and enterprising, it was killed by people just wanting to go somewhere else, not valuing what they had, not valuing their fellow man and their brother, and thinking that the grass was greener on the other side. But what it did was it killed, you know, one of the most landmark financial situations that any, you know, people, especially those who had just come out of shackles, ever created for themselves.
Right. That's
one of the things that we also have to realize, and when we talk about financial acuity and understanding, is this. A lot of the times we complain, well, why are they charging us more? Well, let's break that down a little bit. They're charging us more because the distributors and manufacturers charge us more because there's no unity. There's not a block. You see, every other race, the Chinese will come, the Italians, they will buy together. They will buy in bulk. So when you buy things in bulk for 10, 15 stores, then of course your prices per unit goes down. Your prices per unit goes down, then the cost that you sell to consumers stays low. We have to buy a piece there, things of that nature. But we have to be willing to pay more money. My wife and myself, my wife is the goat when it comes to buy black. And Dola, she already said she loves her products from Jazz on the thing. But we have to understand that yeah, we're gonna pay a little bit more, but we have to pay a little bit more so that we can buy in bulk, so we can have that consortium that other people have. But because we have been systematically deprogrammed to hate ourselves and hate people, oh, they just trying to get over. No, they're just trying to survive. And we have to understand that and support. If I got to pay $5 extra I'm good. Right. Now, if I got to pay double, then but if it's reasonable, if it's thing, and then we also have to have quality service. Yes. One thing that it was the cutest thing, because I don't even know why I got this sample, but I just see this cute little girl like ring my doorbell because I got the ring thing, and she runs, and I'm like, who was that? So I text, I think I hit message, and I was like, did you come by my house today? She said, I think so. And it was the cutest thing, but to see what she's doing with those three beautiful young black sisters is phenomenal. But she comes from one of the greatest couples that I ever seen.
Thanks, Mom.
That they showed me so much love. I got to see the motherland because of Jaliwa and Matungi and that family, and go to Africa, and they my family. They are who. I was a young man coming to Atlanta from the Bronx, didn't know anything, went to the black private school, but I had that passion, and I got embraced showed by love by Jaliwa and Matungi, and that's how these are my daughter's my daughter, man. She's my I'm like my child. She remembers the Goofy watch. I didn't even remember the Goofy watch story.
The Goofy watch with the arms that went backwards because you said I was so goofy. I remember that. I did remember that. Got to plug in here, but now I was just thinking about like all of these different pieces that we're discussing and all these parts. And I was wondering if you guys had any other, if you thought there was anything that could be easily missed in watching the movie, because a lot of stuff is obvious. Like it's obvious, even some of the symbolism is very obvious, but what are some of the things that you thought were kind of nuanced?
Well, I think it was nuanced. It was with, you can see even with the white people who were saying, it's like the older white women, and the guy was like, no, he's got to do his job. Blue Lives Matters and things. But the young white girl was like, nah, this is not right. And I think that's the transcendent that like you said, that youth, our generation, those people who said, no, my crazy uncle was there, I'm going to turn him in. I think that is our only hope. And that's what I saw in that.
I think that one of the things that was probably a couple things, I forget, Omari Hardwick's character, he played a very key role. The fact that he was dying, he was terminal, he had nothing to lose, but he represented so much more than just a literal cancer patient or somebody like that. He was just, he represented a lot of people out there who don't have anything to lose that would run up in some place with their mans and them, because it's like, I don't really have a whole lot to live for. You seem to have something that you're living for right now, so I'm gonna rock with you. Like there's a lot of people who don't have anything to live for, right? And if you give them a purpose, then all of a sudden they become heroic, they become loyal, they become, groundbreaking, all that. You look at all the people who went in there with him. It's like, yeah, he's the pop, he's the dad, so obviously he's going to roll on these people. How did he get all these other people to agree to this? What's in it for them, right? So that's overlooked, and you don't really see what happened with him. You don't know if they kind of dispersed out, if the cops covered for him or whatever. Another thing that was key for me was the little black girl, the filmmaker girl. Who at first, she was the one who was trying to call 911.
Right.
But then once they were in there, she was the one that had to tell the director, like, man, we here, you might as well get it.
Yeah.
She was the one pushing her brother. She was the one like, look, man, we here. You might as well man up. You know what I mean? And that's powerful to see it from a young sister, and that's kind of a microcosm of the black man and woman relationship, and that I thought they showed real pointedly right there.
One of the things that I was the young nephew when
Captain
came in and he was giving him the
he was the audience. He was everybody.
Because you wanna have the drill. You want the grieving black mother to come in and squelch.
Right.
No, burn it down.
It was like, can you get out my auntie house though?
Yeah, like he was about that action. Like, you at the door, but you've even seen it when he started beefing with the captain. Did you see the white officer? Grab. Get
like, oh really?
Like you are shooting me, and they would. But you understand, and it's just that we still tap dancing. We still tokenism. They got to send the black captain in to persuade the black mother to stop this. Well, stop killing us, and you don't have to do none of this.
Right.
Stop killing us, and you don't understand how to de-escalate. I spent 10 years serving our country. I was able to qualify and have a handgun, right? The rules of engagement in the military of this is when deadly force is authorized only when all other means have been exhausted. That's it. I've seen brothers or people get court-martialed because they pulled out their firearm and they could have ran away. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to engage. Nobody's life. But in the streets, they get this rhetoric because understand, little history lesson. Who are our police? Where do we get our police from?
Yep, them overseers.
Slave catchers.
Slave catchers. If you look at the slave catchers badge and the deputy's marshal's badge. So the deputy and marshal were protecting, serving the community. Who was the community? The white people. Mm-hmm. The slave catchers, that what they did. So when we were emancipated, now you had to bring both of those factions together. The marshals, Matt Dillon, all the westerns that we see along with the slave catchers, right? So now when we understand they're doing their job, because white people, they protect them. That's why white people will cuss police, because that's their gang, that's their crew. When we in a fight, who do we call? We call our cousins, we call it Pookie and them, we call it, somebody who just fresh out, that's getting ready to go do that work. Like, he don't give a damn. He want 3 knots in the time. When the white people have a beef, they call their crew too. And their crew is the police.
Absolutely.
Y'all might not have me back.
Oh no, it's not that. I just every single time I think, all right, we should wrap this up, I think about something else and something else. It's really not the kind of thing that one conversation is going to be enough to filter through, because there's just so many links to this thing and then the other thing and then the next thing. Like even that point that he said where when Mr. Lincoln Jefferson was like, you saw he wasn't armed, why'd you keep your gun out? And he said, we're taught not to de-escalate. How is that even? Yes, how is this a thing? You're taught not to bring it down when you see that there's no reason to keep it here. Like, that's insane. And I didn't want to look it up to confirm if it's true or not. I'm a say that he's a good enough researcher that he really looked into all of these laws. Because if I looked it up and confirmed it, I would just get mad all over again. It's true.
Well, it's still subject to the officer's own bias too. I mean, for every one video you see of somebody saying stop resisting, shoot, you see another one of somebody like running away from some naked white guy with a knife or a chainsaw or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so they're using their own discretion and biases in these situations as well. So I mean, to even engage in the first place or to be afraid in the first place is innate. That's something that comes before the badge, and they're not vetting these people out. You know what I mean? Like they're not saying, oh, you have ties with this group, or you said these incendiary things online, maybe you're not qualified to be a cop. No, it's like, go through this basic training for 4 to 6 weeks and then here goes your gun. Good luck. Happy hunting.
What is it that beauticians have to go through longer training than police officers?
Absolutely. And then, like has been pointed out, since all of this stuff has been being filmed and shown over and over and over, you have the police officers that get trained for this amount of time to enforce the law. But how long is a lawyer's training to understand the law, or a judge, or any of these other people these other parts of law? How is it the people who literally are having people's lives in their hands every single day get the least amount of information, the least amount of training, the least amount of anything that's going to really affect the lives of the people who they're supposed to be serving? And I know that since George Floyd, I've been seeing certain cities and municipalities have made changes to the way that they police their citizens. They're having these mental health crews that go out for certain calls and all this other stuff that's happening. But it's like, it's so slow. Like, when is it going to really happen in these other places? Because the fact that he was scared of what? You pulled us over. You have a gun. You technically have all the control here. What is it that you're afraid of? And it reminded me of a very good friend of ours. Unfortunately, someone in their family killed themselves, and the man's brother was there when it happened. So when they call in for police and ambulance and stuff to come and just kind of confirm everything and take the body away, the brother was distraught, and they they reached for their firearm, and they're like, how? Because he's distraught because his brother just died. Like, how are you? What are you scared of? Clearly, this man was the one that was scared, the one that just ended his life. And now the brother, you got the cousins and the grandchildren, everybody is now seeing their grandfather, uncle, father getting a firearm pulled on him because he's distraught that his brother just died. And the police officer said something to the effect of, I was fearful because he's so emotional, he's so irate. He said, well, you shouldn't be here. If you're afraid of this man showing emotion about having lost his brother, why are you here? Like, why did you even respond to this call? But that's the area that he was assigned to. And so it's the kind of thing that just kind of keeps going and going and going. And a lot of people that don't have people who they know that have been affected or haven't seen it really do think this stuff is made up. Like, oh, it's just something that's on TV, or it's exaggerated or whatever. But it's the kind of thing that we can't recount all the stories. Like, the stories are just, they're innumerable. It just kind of keeps going and going and going.
One thing I got from Bad Boys, I think it was Bad Boys 1. It might have been 2. And this is the makeup of a police officer, right? Do you remember when Martin was explaining, Will, so you are a high school softie who got a badge and a gun. Now you're a tough guy. Think about that. Think about how many real, and I'm not saying that every police officer is that, but how many real ones become police officers? You know what I'm saying? That your own. I remember in Untouchables, Al Capone. You're nothing without, a badge and a gun. You're nothing without a badge and a gun. Take that off and let's go to work. I have a client who's in law enforcement, and he said one of the reasons that they shoot is because they are afraid to go to hands. So if you are afraid to go to hands, why do you have a badge?
Yeah, I just got a time check. We got to wrap it up. We got to wrap it up because this really could just keep going and going. So I'm defer to you guys. Like, y'all have any like final thoughts, final comments, like words of encouragement, like anything like that?
Well, I would just first of all encourage anybody who hasn't seen the film to go ahead and see it. I mean,
Yes.
it's important. I mean, I know that some of these things trigger, very sharp and very painful emotions, and depending on what you've gone through, they could be even more detrimental.
Right.
But it's important to have these discussions with each other, within our own families, and understand that if we keep thinking that everybody else is going to solve the issue for us, then that's why it's going to continue to keep going, right? Like, we have to be intentional. We have to be very locked in about it. Like, one of the things that I don't like about the climate since November 4th is that, there's this sense of, whew, okay, like, whew, you know what I mean? A lot of people are like,
right,
hey, we got through that, man, that was crazy. And it's like, that wasn't crazy. That is crazy. Still is. Right. So once we're being pacified and the guy isn't like frowning at us and he's just smiling at us, then we have to still understand that no matter who has been in the main office, Black people have consistently been in this situation that the film depicts. Like, no matter what, you go back to Nixon, you go back to Reagan, Bush, the other Bush, it doesn't matter. Like, red, blue, it doesn't matter. So don't get caught up in the idea that, oh, we have one of ours in place now. It's like, no, actually, that's the guy who created the crime bill that locked so many of your uncles up. And that's the whatever.
And that.
So, I mean, it's like, yeah, you want the lesser of two evils and all that. But, a lot of times the one that has the Confederate flag flying is going to be better than the one that's got it kind of sewn on the inside of a $3,000 suit. You know what I mean? So just stay locked in and engaged. Understand that these situations are happening, and making sure that we're staying involved on the local level specifically to make sure that it's not happening in our neighborhoods, and establishing whatever needs to happen for that to take place.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is not a military or a war casualty. We as African Americans in this country suffer from this daily. I don't want to do a shameless plug to say, well, come see me.
Hey, go see him.
But we cannot internalize this anymore. We can't internalize. We have to talk about it. What I say is that we have to get rid of our emotional poison. We have been emotionally poisoned every day of our life. So if you need to speak to someone, I'm at www.asafespacetobe.com. And I want to listen to you. I want us to walk through this together, because mental health, it's a beautiful thing. Out of my client load, I was told in grad school that, well, if you have to rely on your community, the African American community, to run your practice, it will always fail. Let me explain something to you. 99% of my clientele are African American. 60% are African American males. Understand that, African American males, and the other 38% is African American couples. Because one thing that I also understand is, if we're going to rebuild our communities, we have to rebuild our families. And if we're going to rebuild our families, we have to rebuild our relationships.
And we got to rebuild ourselves.
Exactly. So I implore you, if it's not me, get someone who looks like you, who understands you, and get this stigma of mental. You're not crazy. Matter of fact, I saw something that you might be crazy if you continue denying that what we see every day, what we experience every day, is not causing some emotional trauma.
Right.
I want to thank Ndola, her husband, her beautiful children, this panel, for allowing me to vent, because you allowed me to vent for an hour and a half, and this was
necessary venting though. It needed to happen. Real quick, was it a safe place to be or a safe space to be?
A safe space.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had the right website come up on the screen. But the whole like going to therapy and mental health thing is so interesting because the stigma is so deeply entrenched in just like everything. After I was kidnapped, I was fortunate enough that I was let go, not physically harmed. And it struck me how many people would say, "Oh, so you're okay then? You're fine. You're safe." And I decided early that I was going to make them very uncomfortable and say no. And then they're like, "But you're safe." I'm like, "Yeah, but I was harmed." So a year later, when I was still in therapy, people would say, "But you're strong though. Why are you? It must not be working if you still have to go. Like, why in the world could you possibly still be going to therapy?" And I would tell them, that's not the only time I was traumatized. That wasn't the first trauma. That's just the one that I couldn't ride out. I couldn't just say, let me shake that off. Let me just keep it pushing. And the more that I went, the more I realized that I didn't know a person that's not traumatized. It just totally changed. Like I knew it theoretically before, but as I went to therapy and unloaded my traumas and my stuff and my unconscious decisions and how mindlessly I was doing things and just so much stuff, like epiphany after epiphany. It was amazing, honestly. Because there would be weeks where I would think, what do I have to talk about? Like nothing new is happening, talking about the same stuff. And I would go and something would happen there, some kind of thing. And it made me feel like a blasé session. But then on my drive home, I'm like, wait a minute. This thing and this thing and this thing. And it's not until we actually talk about our own stuff in a safe space that we can start to see all of the stuff that we're carrying. And I was on somebody's post, I think it was today, it was either today or yesterday, and she was talking about how a lot of times we get caught up in missing the past and imagining the future. And can we just normalize being present, like being who we are right now? And it made me think about the point in therapy when I came to realize the person that I had been performing as was not a real person. That person didn't exist. It was a character that I had created to deal with all the traumas and all the stuff. And as I was healing, I kept trying to pick her back up again. And my therapist was like, stop. Like, why? Why are you doing this? And it wasn't until she, quote unquote, gave me permission not to do it anymore that I realized I didn't have to do it. And it's like, oh, I can just be Ndola. I don't have to be this and that and the other. And in watching the movie, I thought about how a lot of those characters show up, the defense character, the irrational character, the angry character, all of these things. And the way that we perceive other people is usually based on our own stuff. It's the stuff that we have going on that usually super influences how we see other people, how we internalize or understand things around us, which is not something that I really knew before. And of course it lends itself well to raising girls. Sometimes I'm like, I wanted a son, but I'm kind of glad I didn't have one because I feel like I can do this girl thing. Like, the girls are hard, but I know the stuff. So I'm, we're getting there. But Masood, I see you're back. Did you have another final thing to add in?
No, Ayub just saw me come back, so he put me back in. So I don't know. I'm just listening, though. I'm good.
All right, y'all. Well, this was an amazing conversation. I appreciate y'all coming on and talking for, hour and a half or so. We are, when we can get our heart rate stabilized, going to do Judas and the Black Messiah. So we're going to, that was you that said that one, right, Masood? Like that needs to be next.
No, yeah, on the comments. Yeah, I did say that.
We were trying to see what else we would do.
Yeah, don't run away from the hard stuff. That's where the good stuff lies. It's right behind the hard stuff.
Yeah, I already, from the beginning of this conversation to now, I've de-escalated myself a bit, talking through stuff. So I'm gonna watch it, maybe not tomorrow, but next week, go on and watch it. And yeah, we're gonna have to set up another time to do it and get some. I don't know if y'all want to come back or if we're gonna need to get some more people in here. I don't know how y'all gonna feel about coming back on to talk about the hard stuff. But it was a pleasure talking with you guys, all these intellectual Black men and women that we had, all these educated people.
I appreciate you having me. I'm honored to be on.
Yeah, I was like you, like, we know some dope people. We need to start just reaching out amongst who we got. Like, we got some great.
Just follow the hashtag, the Giants in my midst. You'll see a lot of dope people.
Oh yeah, that thing has been amazing so far. I've been looking at them every day. Even the people who I don't know, it's like, oh yeah, you belong on here. So, it's been dope.
Yeah. So at first it was a little writing experiment. And then, 3 or 4 days in, I'm like, man, am I really going to do this 28 days in a row?
Yep.
And I was like, I got 24 days left. And now, like, we in the last 10. And I'm like, oh, my God. My list is actually like 40 names. I'm like, I got to really figure out who I'm going to put for these for these last 8. You know what I mean? And we can keep going. And, I have a book that's coming out soon. And that's kind of like the cherry on top of this whole thing is I'm going to announce the book. But the publisher is like, you need to do this one. You need to make this, a book too. So, it's hard to stop. Like once you get in the business of praising people and looking for good in people, and then I feel like my whole timeline is kind of transforming too, where other people are starting to follow suit in a little bit. So it's cool. It's cool. So I appreciate everybody who's been reading it, and
it's really beautiful.
Stay tuned.
The people are beautiful. It's all accurate, and it's not even like this savior kind of fluff kind of. It's just like real legit and just, I don't know. It's very well done, and that's not even trying to make you feel good about yourself.
Appreciate it.
About yourself. It is very well done. I've read all of them so far. I've enjoyed reading them, and check out it's on Instagram and Facebook. The Giant. In my midst, Black History in the Making. It's been awesome. And so just to wrap it up, I wanted to let our in-kind sponsors information go across the bottom again. And Mr. Gordon, you're local, so you and Nargis would get y'all's, between tomorrow and Monday. But Masood, you're gonna have to wait for shipping to get his life in order.
Nah, I'm in Atlanta a lot, so don't waste no shipping on me. I'll come scoop it.
Sounds perfect. Well, we got all the stuff already. Everything is in-house. So I'll do that.
And I would like to donate to a worthy family or somebody. I would like to donate my basket to someone of your choice that is deserving. So I would like to do that.
I'm going to think about that. And that's a beautiful gesture, brother. Beautiful gesture. So we're going to think about somebody and make sure we let them know that it came from you. Because there's some good stuff in there. But
my wife is probably going to yell at me after I leave here. But what are you doing? But
tell her Jazz got her though. Jazz is going to divert some things towards the Gordon household, and then we'll get the basket to somebody else. But thank you guys again. Thanks to the audience, all the comments. Someone suggested we switch on over to Clubhouse and let the conversation keep going. I don't know if that's a bad idea or not. We might need to go in and start a room up real quick. Are you two on Clubhouse?
I keep getting invited, but I don't have an iPhone that I use normally.
I'm not part of the cult.
All right.
All right, Noni, we're gonna have to get our own room on Clubhouse. Mr. Gordon and Masood are not invited. We're gonna get our own room. But once again, thank you everybody. Thank you to our businesses, our sponsors, our youth who's been making sure everybody's information is coming up and people are moving around as needed. Our behind the scenes guy, thank you for all of that. Next week is our very last broadcast for Black History Month. And we're gonna have our young ones on, our little scholars doing their own interpretation of a portion of the I Have a Dream speech. Masood, be quiet. So so that's going to be our last thing for February. And then for March, we are already preparing our pre-Ramadan series. And we've already confirmed some amazing, amazing speakers. We're going to be doing a 5-week series about really just the processes of life. The first week is oneself. The second week is marriage. The third week is parenting. The fourth week is community, and the 5th week is legacy. And so on Monday evenings, we're going to have our men on to speak on these topics. And on Friday evenings, we'll have our women on to speak on these topics. And so we have some imams, some therapists, some scholars, some lay people, historians, just people that are just educated, whether it's in the classroom or just from life. We have some amazing people that have already agreed to join us for that. So we hope that you will too. We definitely will be posting information about that after we finish this, because I don't want to mix the stuff up. But that is all from us. Thank you guys. Love you guys. Stay true. Stay beautiful. Give the family moms.
Stay black. Stay black.
All right. So, good to meet you.
My pleasure.